Our protagonist is called Will Serfort. Despite being born into a world full of magic, he is unable to use it. And even though he is a student at Academia Magica Regarden, he is not considered a wizard, and therefore depends on physical skills to win his battles. We see the Regarden Magic Academy. What is most valued in this place is certainly the magic. But even those who do not have magical power can follow their path in this academy. Of course, this is a more difficult method. To get the points needed to graduate, Will Serfort, who has no magical power, needs to defeat monsters in the dungeon. He goes to the 7th floor, Will has a tough battle against a powerful monster. Using a sword, he protects himself from attacks. And due to his enormous agility, Will manages to get under the monster and attack it with a precise blow. With a single blow of his sword, he can easily cut a monster from the 7th floor of the dungeon. But at that moment, we realize that his battle is not over yet. When Will turns around, he can see dozens more monsters of that species, preparing to attack him. His only company at this moment is his kitten Kiki, who watches from afar. Will Serfort clearly believes he can graduate from the academy, even without using magic. He just needs to defeat the monsters to earn points. We see the city of Urbis Regarden, the capital of magic. It is in the city where Will's academy is located. We are taken to the classroom. Professor Edward Serfens taught students how to channel a bright flame, using some objects and magic. He asks Will to demonstrate. But the boy was taking some notes, and the teacher needs to call his name several times for him to hear. Will is in the 6th year at that school, and he is disappointed when he realizes that the teacher was doing that again. He knows that Will can't use magic, and yet he puts the boy in this kind of shameful situation. Even though he knew he couldn't, he tried to summon the flames, but this was useless. All the students start laughing at him. Only her friend Colette remains silent. Professor Edward takes the moment to humiliate Will even further. That was a basic spell, but a theoretical student couldn't cast it. Will was just good for taking notes. He has no salvation. The boy remains silent, and at that moment the student Shaun Ulster casts his fire magic. He demonstrates his extreme ease in creating that type of magic. The professor tells Shaun to restrain himself. He can't do this kind of thing without permission. The boy apologizes and says he won't be in his best shape. That's why he decided to show him how it's done. And to put out that bright flame, the professor invokes powerful crystal magic. He says that in this world, the supremacy of magic is absolute. Whoever possesses magic has authority. The strength of magic is power. The heroes of that world are wizards. And in that academy, the talent for magic is what will give you a future. Someone without talent like Will, with only theoretical knowledge, cannot perform even a little bit of magic. And that's why he shouldn't remain in that school that gave rise to the wise men. A fool who dreams beyond what he can achieve should leave that place. After class, Cheyenne and her friends, Gordon and Lyral, decide to torment the magicless boy even more. Shaun knew that Will defeated monsters in the dungeon, but he believed they would be weak monsters that gave little credit. He asks if the boy isn't ashamed, but at that moment young Khalid appears to defend her friend. We realize that Shaun likes Khalid. He doesn't understand how a good student was friends with a failure. Khalid gets nervous. She says that Will is much kinder than Shaun, and tries harder than any other student. She would not allow anyone to insult her friend. Shaun is surprised by this answer, but he starts laughing, saying that kindness and hard work don't make someone a great wizard. He grabs Will's shoulder and says that becoming a magic vander is an unattainable dream for him. That's why he wouldn't spend any more time on a loser. Will should listen to his teacher and leave that school. Khalid tells her friend not to worry. Professor Edward was certainly also wrong when he made Will go through these situations. The boy says everything is fine. After all, he can't use magic. On top of everything with a pretty girl, like Khalid worried about him, he will already consider himself lucky. Khalid is embarrassed. She says Will always says that kind of thing out of the blue. She asks what the boy wanted. That kind of flattery would get you nowhere. She also asks if he said that to anyone. Will apologizes. Since he was little, he learned that he should praise girls. But anyway, Khalid really was beautiful, and so he just told the truth. She gets even more embarrassed and says she will not need to say anything else. The girl, daughter of a noble family, loses her composure. Will watches the sky. Her friend asks what happened. He holds a pair of glasses in his hands and replies, "I was thinking how beautiful today is." The girl replies that it is true. This happens because Magic Vander continues to defend the sky. They are the most powerful wizards. We then realize that the blue sky is made by various magics, and in the middle of the city, there is a white tower that rises into the sky. The story of that world is told. A long time ago, people didn't know anything about heaven. They were trapped in darkness. The world was terrorized by celestial invaders, until 5 wizards came together to face them. They repelled the invaders and released a seal on the sky, thus bringing peace to the world. The title of Vander Magic has been passed down since then, being awarded to the strongest. Khalid asks if the Ice Maidens all bees Vina, Juan would be watching over them today. Will says yes. He stretches his hand towards the white tower, and at that moment we see that the Ice Mage was watching them from above. Will then remembers his childhood. He was friends with Elfaria, the Ice Mage. She told him that the sun and moon were floating in the real sky. Will thought all those stories were incredible. She also talks about the sunset. That would be the most beautiful thing in the world. If one day they get closer to the sky, at the top of the tower, when they become Magic Vander, they can see the sunset. Will says they will do it together, and Elfaria promises so. But that was just a childhood promise. This is because Elfaria's potential was real, and due to her talent, she became the youngest person to win the title of Magic Vander. After that, she went to the top of the tower and will continue making her way through the Magic Academy. Even though he has no talent, he is unable to give up on the promise they made. And that's why Will fights to this day to stay by her side. Will goes to meet Professor Werkner, but ends up getting scolded. The boy had gone to the dungeon without permission and made it all the way to the 7th floor. This was dangerous and he could die. Will then apologizes, but he needed to earn points to graduate. Will then receives 2 credits for killing an evil guardian. The boy is happy. Werkner asks if the boy hasn't given up on being a Magic Vander yet. He asks if it would be wrong to think that. The professor tells him that before climbing the tower, he will need to advance to the higher institute, and for that he needs to be the best in writing, spells, and praxis. He needs a lot of credits in these 3 modalities to achieve this, a total of 12,000, but since Will can't use magic, he can't earn credits for spells. Therefore, he has a total of 7,200 points. Will was focusing on the praxis modality to collect credits by defeating monsters in the dungeon. The teacher says that advancing only through praxis is impossible. Still, Will doesn't intend to give up. Werkner says there's no point in thinking about being Magic Vander, while the boy's graduation is at risk. Since he didn't get any credits on the most recent exams, he will need to earn 4 credits by the end of the week. Will needs to get these points in 2 days. Your teacher says that a Baskerville monster has appeared on the 6th floor, and Will could defeat one of those. The boy hugs his teacher and thanks him for helping him. However, Shaun listens to the entire conversation. He hurries to find Baskerville first and defeats him, so Will wouldn't get the points he needed to continue at the academy. Will and Kiki were looking for the monster on the 6th floor. He had faced such a monster before. It grants 4 credits. If they paid attention to the puff of flames, they wouldn't get burned like last time. Kiki helped Will, finding the monsters by smell. Meanwhile, Shaun and his friends were also looking for this monster. However, one of them asked if it was really safe, just the 3 of them walking around on the 6th floor. Shaun was an elite student, which is why he believes he easily defeated the monster. He finds Will's presence irritating. This is because he has no talent and still wants to be a Magic Vander. Shaun turns to talk to his friends, but suddenly a powerful monster attacks those 2. With just 1 punch, he throws one of the boys against the wall. The other boy is paralyzed with fear and is unable to defend himself. He just screamed. At that moment, Will and Kiki hear that scream. The boy grabs his sword and runs towards that sound. Someone on that floor was being attacked. Will and Kiki were fast, and they believe that the people attacked must be close by. The boy arrives at the place and hides and watches what was happening. Will realizes that Shaun was trying to use his fire magic against a monster. However, his shots were not powerful enough to harm the enemy. That was an evil sentinel. This monster is worth 10 credits. Being a very powerful enemy, he should be on the lower floors. But everything indicates that he went up to the 6th floor. Shaun was down, and trembling, he tries to defend himself. Your magic has no effect against the evil sentinel. The monster advances, and Zion becomes desperate. Will prepares to help Xiao, but gives up at the last moment. He remembers that boy torments his life every day. Did he really have an obligation to save him? He thinks about running away and leaving him there. But at that moment, a memory of your friend comes to mind. Elfaria said, "I know that you are kind and braver than anyone." Will remembers that his friend gave those glasses as a gift. When he remembers this, he says that Elfaria was wrong. All he wants is to be by your side. He wants to be worthy of her. But in reality, he is just a normal, shameful guy. Will gets ready. Xiao screams in fear and the evil sentry attacks with his club. The fire mage would be crushed. But quickly the boy without magic advances, and with his sword he manages to hold back the enemy attack. Will became a lonely sword to find his friend. While fighting, we see Professor Edward going to Professor Werkner's office. He reveals that Xiao and his friends entered the dungeon without permission, and that's why Werkner should use his family member to find them. They were heading to the 6th floor. Upon learning this, Werkner says they didn't need to find them. That's because Will is there. The professor then activates his magic on a crystal ball and can see what was happening on the 6th floor. Will was facing a monster worth 10 credits alone. He could easily dodge and defend against that monster's powerful blows. Suddenly, Will uses his gigantic speed to manage to cut off one of the enemy's fingers. The furious monster tries to hit him with his weapon, but the boy manages to dodge at the last moment. Will jumps through the debris, and the evil sentry tries to shoot him out of the air. Will spins around and manages to defend himself once again. However, in the second attack, he ends up being pushed. The monster throws several giant rocks towards a boy, but he just cuts those rocks with his sword. Will was fast and strong, and so he advances once more. The monster is unable to keep up with him and loses sight of the boy. Will then attacks from above. With his sword, he hits the enemy's shoulder. Xiao was surprised. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Professor Werkner could see Will because of Kiki. He tells Edward that this boy is a real irregular. He has superhuman strength that a wizard could never achieve, with a physique as robust as a dwarf, and intuition to learn the enemy's strategies after seeing them just once. The evil sentry uses the same pattern of blows to attack Will, but this time the boy knows how to act. He dodges a blow in the air and then cuts off the enemy's arm. Although Will cannot use magic, in this world full of magic he is the only warrior. The sentry's sword falls to the ground. Will then picks up that giant sword to fight. The monster is furious, and the boy prepares to attack. He fires a powerful magic beam from his mouth. Will defends himself with that gigantic sword, and with just one blow of his sword, he can overcome the strength of that lightning and decapitate the enemy. Will Serfort manage to destroy the sentinel and save Zion? He asks if the boy was hurt, and dying of anger, Zion bites his own mouth. Professor Edward doesn't like it at all either. Someone who cannot use magic cannot overcome it. Will then meets with Progressor Werkner. He takes proof that he defeated the enemy and thus gains 10 points. Will and Kiki are happy. This is the story of a boy who would turn the world upside down. A story about the union between wand and sword, Wistoria. And guys, this is how the first episode of this incredible anime ends. If you want to see more recaps of this and other animes here on the channel, it's very easy. Sign up. Thank you for watching this video until the end, and see you next time.